In 1984, American avant-rockers Birdsongs of the Mesozoic released their debut album Magnetic Flip, and from it, the track Pizzicato. So far, we've got kind of like a Riley-esque arrangement here. We've got a sustained under note over like underlying this like fugue-like piano figure. The way that this is very unique for its time anyway. Like the piano runs that are just it's like they're happening in a different room. They're just completely independently of one another. That piano fugue and that really tight clipped guitar riffage. It's the colliding of different cadences, both closed and like open. Yeah, it's like two very different musical sides, just kind of like colliding like this. Like the piano runs here, and then the guitar like. I can definitely see it. Pizzicato, a portmanteau of pizzicato and toccata. There's that one keyboard underneath that's going no 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 like faster and adding sort of an urgency underneath these like open cadences and sustain. How many keyboards are we hearing at once? We have got, let's see, the lineup. Oh, I'll get that sorted out. Discogs. Okay, what do we have? We have got Erik Lindgren, synthesizer, percussion. Roger Miller, piano, organ, percussion. Rick Scott, piano, Farfisa, synthesizer, percussion. So everyone plays percussion, and three of them play keyboards, plus and Martin Swope guitar. Yeah. Oh, hear that that brimming, crackling guitar? It's coming out of like this speaker for me. It's okay. We got like this one keyboard doing like this frantic one note, and then we got some like some toccata. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Are they playing in the same time signature as one another, or? And now I hear that how that slow kind of guitar riff is coming like down, 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 down. I wonder. They must have done this in different takes from one another and just kind of layered it on. It seems hard to imagine how each of these players could have concentrated on their part, like with the other. Of course, if they took this to the stage, I don't know if this band toured, but. Okay, yeah, we got some really slow sustain on the guitar, just kind of oozing, searing, a little bit low in the mix as that sprinkly keyboard just. A slight kind of Frippian tone in that guitar. Yeah, that was Birdsongs of the Mesozoic, Pizzicato, breaking new ground. Not much to compare it to. I mean, there had been, there had been like avant-garde rock, there had been minimalism, there had been attempts to bring, kind of elements of like Lark's Tongues and Aspic, Starless and Bible Black type avant-garde rock together with, Philip Glass, Steve Riley, um, it, it, Terry Riley, Steve Reich, and I haven't come across anything prior to this that managed to marry. That's like the best description I can think of for this. Anyway, yeah. It's something. It's one of those things that's hard to describe. It just has to be heard in order to be believed. Description. In fact, those descriptions. I don't even recommend going out there and using. That's a banal simile. What I just gave you. Yeah, a cross between. Yeah, don't go telling people. Oh, they sound like a cross between mid-period KC and minimalism. There's probably 20 different concoctions that a person might imagine based on that. Yeah, this. Let's hear another track from Magnetic Flip, the Tyger. Okay, a more measurable meter here. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2. Kind of like an echoey, sustained lead, kind of searing above over some drumming that's like really kind of. Really kind of like low, sort of droning piano, and a bit of high tinkliness sprinkled in. What's making that guitar ringing part so catchy is the way it throws in that high octave. I'm gonna get a bit of synthesizers like spacey effects in this, I guess. This is inspired by the Tyger, a poem by the English poet William Blake. Yeah, and I guess that's the old spelling because it's spelled Tyger. Let's see. Tyger, Tyger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire What the hand dare seize the fire, and what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart begin to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? Yeah, I can see this music kind of invoking the imagery of the poem. Oh, hear those synthesizers kind of like wheezing, twisting. Yeah, this is actually quite accessible. Like for such an experimental and dense piece, it's also very hummable. Like I could describe this one pretty easily. The other one though was in a class of its own. Well, unless you compare it to some of their other pieces in a similar style, then it just and familiarize yourself with this band's rather hard to describe sound. The kind of thing that I think that this strikes me as the kind of avant-garde music that could be popular. That could be that perhaps the average listener could relate to because it's catchy at the same time. It's got like a a hummable, very definite like melodic contour to it. Okay, the only criticism I have is that it's gotten kind of repetitive over. We're like 43 minutes in. I may have like appreciated, like a bridge, something to shake things up. But then again, it's also very short. Relatively speaking, in relation to its neighbors on the album anyway. One of those songs that just kind of doesn't really come to an end or a conclusion. It just sort of gradually decomposes or deconstructs. Yeah, a few layers drop off. And then there were two. And then there was one. Yeah, that was Birdsongs of the Mesozoic with the Tyger from their 1984 debut album, Magnetic Flip. And before that, Pizzicato from the same album. Yeah, a band that really had their own sound and style and ideas right from the start. It just goes to show that in 1984, there was still a lot of fresh, well, either you could say there were fresh new ideas to explore still in the realm of rock, or there were new combinations that hadn't quite been tried yet. In this case, like avant-garde rock and avant-garde 20th century classical. Or let's just say that there were still. I mean, that description right there could describe Universe Zero or Artzoid, but this sounds nothing like either of those bands. It just goes to show that there wasn't just one way or two ways in which those influences could be combined. There were probably like 20 possibilities that wouldn't really bear any resemblance to one another. It's like Z and R you could think of as another, or Hoover, and yeah, and that don't sound anything like this either. This band, yeah, I guess Roger Miller, the mastermind behind it all, had been in a whole bunch of bands since his teens. And before this, he was in a band called Missions of Burma that were one of the earliest stateside bands to reflect the post-punk sound coming out of the UK. Yeah, it's kind of like I would have to revisit that again to know more about it. There, but really popular like on like college radio back in the '80s and such. This, however, courted more of like a post-cow type audience, and as such, their second album, released 5 years after Magnetic Fault Line, appeared on Cuneo Forum, the ultimate like post Henry Cow label that also issued titles by Universe Zero and such. Yeah, as well as like other like avant-garde bands kind of in the post Cow vein in varying capacities, like Curlew, Dr. Nerve. Yeah, the whole wave of like late 80s, early 90s avant-rock. Heck, when I first heard some of those bands for the first time, like in 1991, I was actually quite optimistic about the 90s, thinking it was going to be a really exciting decade musically. Yeah. Oh well. But those are topics for another time, another series of videos. Yeah. For more Rubies and Sapphires from Magnetic Flip, see the directory of albums from 1984. The annotated directory of albums from 1984, over 630 titles strong. Yes, for the Birdsongs and Mesozoic album, as well as some other avant-garde records from the year, like Bizarre, Co, and such, and many other albums from across the musical spectrum, from metal to jazz to sophistopop to synth pop to symphonic rock to 20th century classical to soundtrack. Yeah, this goes on. 1984, very musically rich and thriving year around the world. Like and subscribe, follow me on social media, and leave a comment if there are any observations you have about this these two songs, the layers, the instrumentation, how different instruments collided, how different tonalities complemented one another or clashed with one another, the glorious, fractious, unique nature of it all, yes. And until next time, this is Zaragon, the world's most air-traveled Trameximist, signing off.